And Mr. Chair's may I remind you, you're still under oath. Of course, you know that, yeah. All right. Next question, Ms. Beeson.
Thank you, Judge. Seth, we're going to go back to Exhibit H, date stamp page 1. Let me know when you get there.
H.
That H is in Henry?
Yes.
Okay.
Down at the bottom where the comment section is, it says follow up with pediatrician concerning ear infections and allergies. And this was 10/28/2015. What had been going on with Bella's ear infections?
Well, she'd been having a lot of them. It'd been a recurring thing. She'd have an earache, she'd get sick, and it would always accompany an earache. There was a lot of pain in her ears. She'd had earaches in the past, but then there'd be a gap in between her next one. I'd say in the fall of 2015, it got to the point where she was having them more often. And so it was a growing concern that maybe she needed to seek treatment.
So after
It was my growing concern that she needed to seek treatment.
After October 28th, when this health assessment was completed by Cassandra, did she communicate with you pertaining to following up with the pediatrician regarding the ear infections?
No, she did not.
And you just stated it was a growing concern for you.
Well, because I'd suffered from earaches growing up as a kid, and I was too young to really understand the full scope of it, but eventually it led to a collapsed eardrum, and I had to have surgery to go ahead and reconstruct the ear so I could even hear. And I don't know if that's a genetic condition that I should have been I was concerned that there was the possibility that she had a same genetic disposition to have those problems that I did. So, yeah, I had some concerns when it became more prevalent.
And did you communicate these concerns with Cassandra?
I did, specifically for that reason that I'd had those issues as a child.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point. I've been really impatient for a while. We keep going into areas that aren't related at all to any of the contempt
Offer
issues.
proof.
We're here for contempt. We're not here to paint this
Offer
great
proof.
story that's happening here.
Ms. Beeson. Relevance.
One of the allegations against my client is that he scheduled this surgery for Bella.
So exchange of information. Overruled. Okay.
So
Overruled
after,
as the narrative.
after you discussed this with Cassandra, what did the two of you do?
No, she objected, said she didn't need to go ahead and see an ENT. She was absolutely against any type of surgical procedure.
Was a doctor's appointment made?
I don't recall, honestly, there was never a doctor's appointment made. There were so many doctor's appointments, I'm trying to recall. Whether or not one was made specifically for her to see an ear, nose, and throat, I want to say yes. I know that I took Bella to see a doctor because she had an ear infection, and I took her to a doctor because of that. And I told Cassandra that I wanted to go ahead and get a referral to an ENT. I don't recall how that communication transacted, but I thought that Bella had been going through this enough, and I was concerned, and I thought she needed to go see an ENT. And the only way to do it with my plan, I have a HMO, is that I have to get a referral. So she had to go to the primary care physician first for that referral.
Do you recall when the ENT appointment was?
The appointment to see the ENT, I believe, was December 2015.
And did you notify Cassandra of the appointment?
Yes, immediately once the appointment was scheduled.
And was she in attendance at that appointment?
Yes, she was.
I'm going to have you turn to double A. And these are text messages between you and Cassandra, December 15th, 2015. And reference is a doctor's appointment in this text. Was this the ENT doctor appointment that you're referencing?
Yes, it is.
So Cassandra says, I'm aware she needs to be there by 7:30, so I need to leave by 7 a.m.
The appointment time was actually 8 a.m., but they told me that she needed to be there half hour early, so I communicated that to Cassandra.
Okay. So I apologize. You're the green, correct? The
Well-
green text message boxes? And she's the lighter color?
The bubbles.
Yes, I'm the
She should be the
darker.
one on the right.
Okay.
I'm the darker color.
So she is saying Monday is the doctor's appointment, and that was you responding.
Yes,
Okay, and then she says, I'm going to the appointment.
yes, that's correct.
Exhibit BB. December 18th, 2015 text messages.
Yes, that's
The address for the doctor, and are you sure you're able to drive her? Because I can if you need. I'm sure, thank you. So did she drive Bella to the appointment?
she did. She drove both Bella and Lincoln.
Okay. And
They were still in her custody at the time.
it was her custodial time.
Because we didn't have the exchanges were still supposed to be at 9 a.m. per the divorce decree.
And
parental plan.
what was the result from the ENT appointment?
The doctor took only a few minutes with her and said right away, yeah, she needs to have surgery. The doctor said that there's fluid in her ears. He said that she's suffering from sleep apnea. He said it's likely that the sleep apnea is because of the fluid in her ears. She needs to have her tonsils and her adenoids removed as well, and tubes placed in her ears. That's what he told us.
And what type of surgery was recommended? Or what surgical procedures were recommended?
To do all three, to remove her tonsils, remove her adenoids, and to place tubes into her ears.
And did you and Cassandra agree with that recommendation?
Cassandra and I did not agree. I was in full support of the doctor's recommendation. Cassandra was opposed to any type of surgery whatsoever, any surgical procedure.
And as a result of Cassandra not being in agreement, what did the two of you decide?
Well, after the doctor left, the nurse came in for the scheduling. We had some communication. Cassandra said, I don't want her to have surgery. She doesn't need to have surgery. And I argued with her over that. The nurse comes in and we start looking at scheduling dates for surgeries. The first available surgery is the 5th of March. And here we are in the middle of December. So 3 months later, essentially, and that was the earliest available they had. So what I told her, Cassandra wanted a second opinion. I told her, look, we booked the appointment. I'll get you the information from my insurance of every other ENT on our plan. You can go schedule appointments. We'll both go. We'll get the second opinions. But we'll keep the surgery date so that we preserve it, because if we didn't secure it then, it could have got pushed out to April or May within a week or two.
And did Cassandra go through with setting up a second opinion?
Yes and no. I provided Cassandra. What I did is if I recall correctly, I printed from the page in our insurance provider book, and I sent her, or either sent it or handed her the list of all the other ENTs on my plan. I told her to go ahead, make whatever appointment she needed to for second opinions, let me know, and I'll be there. To my knowledge at the time, she never did. Subsequent to that, I learned that Cassandra had taken Bella back to the primary care physician, Anita Henderson, and she was basing her second opinion off of the primary care physician's whatever communication they had. Again, I wasn't there for that appointment. I wasn't informed of it, made aware of it, so I wasn't present whenever she spoke to Anita Henderson. But she told me that based on her meeting with Anita Henderson, she didn't feel Bella needed the surgery. She said specifically didn't need the tubes in her ear.
Okay. So Bella did eventually have surgery, correct?
Yes.
And it was March 5th, 2016?
Actually, I got a call from them, from the surgery center, and they were able to move it up to March 1st.
Okay, so they moved it up to March 1st. What surgery or surgeries did Bella actually have?
The only procedure that was performed was having her adenoids and tonsils removed. We actually... The surgery almost didn't go at all, because when we arrived there, Cassandra showed up a little bit before me. I had the children in my custody. She showed up ahead, and when I went to sign the paperwork at the front desk, reviewing the paperwork, I noticed that she had marked or signed or withheld or something on the paperwork saying she wouldn't agree to the tubes in her ear. When I saw that, I said, wait a second, she's supposed to have all those procedures. We got in a discussion about it. We argued. I said she needed it. Cassandra said that she didn't. We actually got back into the surgery, the prep center, and the doctor himself, Dr. Tolan, came back there, and he spent 5 minutes, which maybe it was only 3 minutes, but for a doctor, every minute seems to be precious. So he spent at least 3 minutes talking with Cassandra and me present, trying to convince her of why she needed to just go ahead and have the tubes placed in Bella's ears at that time. But he said, look, if she doesn't agree to this, we're not going forward with the surgery. And so he actually pulled Cassandra away from me to talk privately at my request, simply because I said, maybe it's because I'm here that she's not listening to you. The doctor pulled her aside, spoke privately with her, came back and said, look, she's not going to agree with it. So we can either go forward with just the tonsils and adenoids, or the surgery's off. And what ended up happening is the doctor, I was a little bit emotional, because my concern was my daughter going under anesthesia twice if she needed to have the tubes later on. So the doctor, understanding this concern, Dr. Tolan said, look, it's a, if for any reason we have to do the tubes at a later date and time, it wouldn't be the same type of anesthesia I got to put her under for the tonsils and adenoids. Essentially, he explained the procedure and allayed my fears, and so under his advice, which he said at a minimum she still needs the tonsils and adenoids, we should do those, I said, okay, let's go forward with what she will allow at this point in time. And so Bella did get her tonsils and adenoids removed, but she did not receive the tubes in her ears.
Did you have additional discussions with Cassandra the day of the surgery regarding the tubes in the ears?
Yes, I did. We went into this antechamber, and we had a moment alone, and I began to talk to her about it because I was frustrated why she wouldn't agree to the tonsils. I said, you know what, I gave you the opportunity to go get a second opinion. You didn't do that. And that's when she told me, yes, I went and spoke to Anita Henderson. And I advised her, that's her primary care physician. And we had this dialogue where I wasn't trying to be facetious. I was just very candid with her. I said, look, if you have cancer, wouldn't you go to an oncologist, not a primary care physician, to get a diagnosis? I even said, look, Anita Henderson can't even make the determination that Bella needs this surgery. She'd have to refer it to an expert such as Dr. Tolan. I got her to say all these things, and during the course of it, as I'm trying to narrow down why won't you allow it, she finally said, because I prayed about it and I don't think that she needs it. And I said, you're basing your decision on whether or not Bella needs medical care based on you praying about it and feeling that she didn't? And she said, yeah. And I mean, at the time, I was just very upset and frustrated, and that happened before we actually went in, and I asked Dr. Tolan to speak to both of us and her privately. That happened before.
Did you memorialize that conversation in any way?
I did. I recorded it on my phone at the time, on my cell phone.
March 1st, 2016?
At the time that we had the conversation in that antechamber, I recorded it on my cell phone.
Was there anybody else present during that conversation?
No, there was not.
And what did you do with that recording?
Well, I had my phone out there open, and she asked me, "Are you recording this conversation?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And then what I did with the recording is I gave it to my attorney.
Okay. And to the best of your understanding, I have provided a copy of that recording as proposed Exhibit LL, correct?
That is correct.
And the only two voices on the recording are yours and Cassandra's, correct?
That's correct. Nobody else was in the room.
Judge, I don't need to play the recording at this point in time. I've got my client's testimony, but I would like to reserve the right to request to have it admitted to play it if the plaintiff's version of events differs.
You want to just wait then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And also, Judge, just so you know, we have a laptop here, but if you want IT to play it,
Is that recording still on his cell phone? You
Yes.
put it on speakerphone and just lay it on top of the
Okay.
microphone, it'll be recorded?
And the objection is relevance. It's not relevant.
They haven't offered it, counsel.
I understand. Again, it's this whole narrative we keep going through. We're going to spend hours talking about things that are not related to any of their complaints for contempt, nor mine.
I can
Our
address that.
Giving leeway because it has to do with their co-parenting and the context that it's occurring in.
and part of today
Yeah.
is
Here for
about,
hours and hours if I want her to testify
put-
about
I know you gotta
all
put
of the
her-
times that he won't co-parent. We're limited here to the allegations contained in, per the law, to the allegations contained and the very specific requests made in the order to show costs. And I'm just trying, we're just wasting a lot of time trying to paint a picture through narratives that aren't relevant to any of the complaints.
Overruled as to the relevance. We asked you to stick to your time limits. I know we started an hour late, so a few minutes there. But we're trying to get their case done. There isn't many witnesses. It's just the parties, I believe, right? So you've done most of the morning with Dad. You might do a little bit more, and then you're going to start to call Mom, right?
right, Mom is going to take a lot less time than Dad.
Yeah, and then you'll finish your end today, and then we'll wrap it up on Thursday. It was scheduled for 2 days. We will stick with your time limits. Okay, if it does get narrative, thank you. I'm aware of that. Then I will redirect counsel. But I'm taking notes, so if I think it's relevant and in context, this is the first time I'm hearing, their history. So, but I appreciate that, Mr. Mills. Okay, we'll keep plugging away. So, yeah, the audio recording will just maybe. Okay, gotcha.
After Bella's surgery, what, if any, issues occurred regard to her aftercare?
Well, they scheduled a post-operative appointment while we were there. It was, I can't remember the exact date, whether it was it was sometime later in March. I want to say it was like the 25th of March. There was a post-operative date. What I did is a week later after the surgery, I called them back. It was either a week or two to confirm the post-op appointment. At that point in time, I was advised that Cassandra had called and changed the post-operative appointment. I didn't know about it. She didn't inform me about it previously. So when I learned that it was changed to an earlier date, there were two problems with it. One, the original post-op appointment was scheduled, I believe it was on a Friday. It was scheduled at a date and time that didn't impede with me work-wise so I could be present. The reschedule ended up impacting where I had to go ahead and make adjustments in order to make sure that I could attend with work. So after I found that out, I sent an email to Cassandra, letting
Were
her
you
know.
working at the time?
At the Clark County Public Defender's Office.
Okay, Seth, I'm going to have you take a look at Exhibit L.
Okay.
Is this the email that you sent Cassandra?
Yes, it is.
L?
Okay.
Yeah, on Tuesday, March 8th, 2016. And in the email, I went ahead and I put down the original date and time, which was March 25th at 1:10 p.m., and that it was changed by Cassandra to March 23rd at 10 a.m., which, with my work schedule, the one thing that Cassandra is well aware of and knows is that almost all my court appearances happen in the morning, in the AM time. So any scheduled appointment time in the morning is going to impact my job. I have flexibilities in the afternoons to be able to go ahead and schedule leave, but the mornings are pretty much, I don't have much flexibility at all. So moving it from an afternoon to a morning AM, she would have been aware that that would have impacted my ability to attend.
Did she respond to this March 8th email, to the best of your recollection?
Not to my recollection, no.
After this incident, were there any others with regard to Cassandra rescheduling appointments?
Yes.
What type of appointments?
Dentist, medical. I know that there was one dentist appointment in particular, follow-up medical appointment for vaccinations for the children.
I'm going to have you look at Exhibit O.
Okay.
This is March 23rd, 2016, correct?
Correct.
And is this one example of Cassandra changing a dentist appointment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The appointment was, yeah, it was previously scheduled for one time, and she changed it at the last minute.
And you, according to this text, you had made arrangements to be there at the noon time, correct?
I made arrangements to be there at the originally scheduled time. Yes.
Okay. And in response, she responded, something came up, so I changed the time. I'm letting you know.
Yes.
And this is 5:11 p.m., the day before the appointment, correct?
Correct. And at that point in time, there was no way I was going to be able to find coverage. I had court the following morning. There was no way I was going to be able to find coverage or even try and continue any of my matters, so I wasn't going to be able to be there.
Okay, so you did not attend the appointment after all?
No.
Okay.
I would have had it stayed at the original time.
Going to April 2016, were there any communication issues between you and Cassandra?
There was definitely an issue with the vaccination date, like having the children's vaccinations done.
What happened with that?
I think there were two issues in April. The first, if I recall correctly, the first appointment, I either got notified like right before she took them in, and so I wasn't able to attend. And then the second appointment, I think she notified me after the fact, after it had already taken place. So I never even had the option of attending.
Were there any scheduled meetings with the school for the children?
Oh, yes. There was Bella had another speech assessment evaluation done on her, and based on the report that was prepared, the school contacted us and set up a meeting, contacted both parents and set up a meeting for us to sit down and discuss their evaluation of Bella.
Would it sound correct if I said the meeting took place on or about April 1st?
Yes, it would.
And did you and Cassandra attend that meeting?
I attended the meeting on the 1st. I was present. Cassandra wanted a separate meeting that I protested. I objected to, I believe I objected to that in writing. I told Cassandra as well that I need to be present for these meetings. That even if she's having the same exact meeting that I'm having, but having it the next day or just to be separate from me, it's not the way it's supposed to be, because what if she mentions something? What if she has, she says something that spurs a dialogue that's different from the communication that I had during my meeting and vice versa? We both need all the information possible, and that's why we should both be in the same meetings. She didn't want that to happen, and so she elected to go ahead and have a separate meeting. And the school, over my objections, they obliged her.
Were there any issues pertaining to Lincoln in April 2016?
I think in April, I believe, I don't know if it happened in April. Lincoln, when we were at his March IEP meeting, where they put him in the preschool program, the self-contained program, at that same meeting, they talked about how he would qualify for, I forget what the acronym was, my attorney's probably got it, but it was a summer program where he'd be eligible to go to summer school for 6 weeks in a self-contained program as well. We were advised of that. Both me and Cassandra agreed that yes, we would want that. And what we were told is that we would be contacted later on about the summer program and what we needed to do. I believe in April, it was either April, could have been May. I don't really recall the exact date, but essentially what happened is we ended up having a meeting at Lincoln School, Kitty Ward, discussing his IEP and going ahead and talking about where we need to make adjustments for the upcoming school year. And at that point in time, we also talked about, well, he's scheduled for this summer program through the Clark County School District, and they advised us that his IEP would not change whatsoever for the summer program. Whatever changes we made then would only take effect the start of the school year when he went into kindergarten. And we were still awaiting information from the district as far as the summer program, because again, we were going to be notified of where he would attend school and transportation details. So we were waiting for that.
As part of the recommendations from the Child Find meeting, was there a referral for a neuropsychologist for Lincoln?
Yes, there was. That was one of the things they recommended, that we go get a neuropsychological evaluation of him. And I guess what the issue was with that, and I don't think I'm misstating it, but Child Find's evaluation, while they said that he was autistic through them, I don't know that that qualified on the same level as a clinical diagnosis that you would obtain from a neuropsychologist. I guess their evaluation of him was a lot, it was much more condensed and limited in scope than what you'd get from an actual neuropsychologist. So they recommended that we go and get a neuropsychologist to evaluate Lincoln as well. So I told Cassandra, I said, all right, look, I'll go ahead and we had to go back to the primary care physician in order to go ahead and get the referral. So we went back to Anita Henderson. At that point in time, we got the referral for the neuropsychologist, along with some other issues that happened during that doctor's appointment. But we got the referral from the neuropsychologist. I advised Cassandra during that doctor's appointment look, I'll go ahead, I'll contact them because the doctor said you got to wait, a few days for them to actually receive the referral in the system. So I told Cassandra, I'll contact the neuropsychologist's office as soon as the referral goes through. I'll figure out what the dates are to schedule them. I'll let you know, and then you figure out between now and then what dates are going to work best for you so that I can schedule something with them. What ended up happening is when I finally did contact the neuropsychologist's office, they said, we already spoke to a Cassandra Gutierrez. Is she related to you? I said, that's Lincoln's mother. And they said, we already sent her out a packet because we need this packet filled out ahead of time before we can even begin to schedule any appointment for Lincoln. I said, can you please go ahead and give me a copy of the packet, email it to me because I hadn't received anything. Also, they didn't even have any of my information when I requested them. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know that I was Lincoln's father.
And did Cassandra notify you that she contacted their office?
No, she did not.
And when you learned about this, did you contact Cassandra?
I sent her an email again.
Okay. And what was the tone of that conversation?
Probably one of frustration, where I probably reiterated again that you got to keep me in the loop of these things. We're supposed to be doing it together. And so I told her, I know that I provided her a copy of the packet that they emailed to me so that she had it. I know that I gave her specific information about we need to have the packet completed and turned in as soon as possible because they can't even begin to schedule his initial intake process until they have that. So I asked her just to go ahead and do that. I know that I submitted mine relatively quickly. Unfortunately, it took an additional 2-3 weeks or something before hers ever got submitted, so that just continued to push things out for Lincoln.
So you said you addressed this through email to Cassandra. How did she respond, if at all?
I have to be honest, I don't recall what her email response, if any, was. I don't recall if she responded or not, and if she did, I don't remember what she said.
Okay. During the marriage, was there an agreement with regard to whether or not the children would be vaccinated?
No.
None.
No.
After the divorce, were there any conversations between you and Cassandra pertaining to vaccinating the children?
Only once it became an issue when I had the children receive their up-to-date vaccinations in November of 2015.
Cassandra claims that the two of you had an agreement not to vaccinate the children. Is that correct?
No. Like I said, we didn't have an agreement. We had talked about it. Bella received vaccinations when she was born. All right. So we started out vaccinating the children.
Okay, so
What-
have you actually turned to Plaintiff's Exhibit 2?
Plaintiffs, I don't have plaintiffs up here. Thank you. Okay, I have plaintiffs too.
Okay, and the bait stamp at the bottom right is page 004.
Correct.
This is Bella's...
Sorry, what exhibit number? What
I'm sorry?
exhibit?
2.
Page 004,
Thank you.
which is actually the first page.
Got it.
And these are Bella's immunization records, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like the first time Bella received vaccinations was 2010, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was during the marriage.
Yes.
What was the conversation that took place between you and Cassandra after you got the children vaccinated in 2015?
She was upset that I'd given the children vaccinations. She said that we agreed not to vaccinate the children. Then we had an argument over that where I said, what are you talking about? We never had any agreement not to vaccinate the kids. We had discussed it at one point in time in our marriage when Lincoln was born, simply because she had been talking to some people about the concern that vaccinations led to autism. But we never agreed not to vaccinate the kids. We had been vaccinating the children.
Okay. And that November 2015 doctor appointment where the children received vaccinations, was Cassandra aware of that doctor's appointment?
I'm
Yes.
lost. When was the conversation about the alleged agreement?
The conversation where we argued about it, or
Yeah.
that would have been the November doctor's appointment 2015, where we argued about whether or not there ever was an agreement.
When? December?
November 2015.
You were at the doctor's.
We argued about it after the doctor's appointment.
Oh, was it a checkup, primary care checkup? Or?
I think that was when I can't recall the exact reason why I took Bella in to see the doctor. It could have been a checkup for both of them, since I don't recall, Your Honor. But she was aware that I had the appointment for them.
And the argument was in person?
I believe the argument was in person, because I don't have any documentation
And your
otherwise.
next question?
I'm going to have you turn to Defendant's Exhibit KK.
Okay.
All right, and this appears to be text communication from Cassandra to you on November 3rd, 2015, and November 4th, 2015, correct?
That's correct.
That's not what my KK is, Counsel.
KK?
What is it?
Oh, I see.
It's really tiny.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the
Oh,
date
okay,
up
I got
top. I see, okay. Sorry.
And
One in? Yes.
do you know what she was asking for as far as medical records?
Yes, Cassandra knew that I was taking the children to the doctor's office, and so she sent me a text asking if, when I was there, I could get medical records for both Bella and Lincoln, because she said that she needed them in order to get their Social Security cards.
Okay. So at the appointment, did you request the medical records?
I did.
And at that time, what did you learn?
Well, when I asked for the medical records, the doctor pointed out to me that Bella and Lincoln were not up to date on their immunizations.
And is that when the immunizations went forward?
Yeah, I told the doctor, well, then what do we need? Just go ahead and bring them up to date. I mean, Bella was already in school, so I was confused over why her immunizations weren't up to date. I understood why Lincoln's might not have been, because he wasn't. He had just started school, so I was just not understanding why they weren't up to date. And at the time, I didn't have time to review all these records and figure out what was going on. Lincoln had just barely started school. I had thought that he would have needed to get them in order to go ahead and even start school. So I was confused. I just told him, look, whatever we got to do to just bring them up to date, just go ahead and do it then.
It's like a year later. Because you said November 2015 is when she got upset with you
Oh,
about...
yes. No, I'm thinking about his
It's
follow-up
dated.
vaccination appointment in April.
Okay, so on November 4th, 2015, both of the children received vaccinations from their primary caregiver, correct?
Yes, because Bella was not up to date, and I don't recall whether or not he had any records for Lincoln at the time.
Okay. So again, I'm just going to have you look at Plaintiff's Exhibit.
I might have missed that. They did get shots on 11/4/15. That should be in the shot records.
Yes.
After that, Mom gets upset with Dad, saying, I thought we weren't going to vaccinate them. And they kind of left it at that. A year later, this 12/30/16 text happens. No, there's something in between.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. The text is not, if you don't mind me correcting. The email date, that was the misunderstanding I had. The email date and the text
I'm
date
sorry.
are different times.
It's 11/3/15.
And 11/4/2015 is the texts.
I know, you
The
need
day
like a
before the
magnet.
appointment, she's saying, "Can you get the med recs?"
Right. So now he's explaining.
Are you still at the doctor? And he
Right.
says, "Yeah, I don't order them." And that's when the doctor verbally told him they're not up to date.
Right.
He will leave it at that. It's 12 noon. Got a break for lunch. Come back promptly at 1:30. You can leave all your stuff there. Take your valuables with him, but we do lock the quorum and open up just before 1:30. We'll open up again. All right. Thank you.